Welcome to the Women's Football Show here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Kerry Pollock. Cheryl Smith is here with me. We're here at Petershill Park this afternoon as of a little bit of a change in the league table. But first, let's have a look at the results from the weekend. In the Edinburgh Derby, it was Hibernian 1, Hearts 2, Glasgow City 4, Motherwell 0, Rangers 1, Celtic 1. Moving on to the bottom six, it was Aberdeen 2, Spartans 4, Queen's Park 0, Montrose 0 and Dundee United 3, Partick Thistle 4. Cheryl, let's start with the Old Firm game then. Was that a bit of an unexpected result in your eyes?
I think Rangers went into it favourites, just given where they were in the table compared to Celtic, and also Celtic's lack of ability to beat Rangers this season. Of course, they still didn't beat them. I think the first half, it was all Rangers. They dominated the game. They got the early goal. Kirsty Hibs scored. I have to say, though, it was a really poor piece of defending from Celtic. They failed to clear the ball. I think she put the ball in the place that you just don't want to put it, which was right in the middle of the goal. You either want to put it up the pitch or put it out for a corner, but she put it in the worst possible place. And Kirsty Howard latched onto it, and to be fair, it was a very good finish. I think going in half-time, just 1-0 ahead, I think it was actually good for Celtic because it gave them a chance to come back out in that second half. We've seen this season, they've had good moments, they've had good 20 minutes here, a good half here, so that's actually what happened. They came out in the second half. I thought they were pretty good in the second half. They managed to get the equaliser. It was Amy Gallagher. She started the game on the bench. She came on. It was a good goal for her to get, not just because of the context of the game, but she has been a shadow of the player this season that she was in the last campaign. So I think for Celtic, they'll be hoping that really sparks her into life for these last 7 games, and that would be a welcome boost for them.
Absolutely. Well, Elena Sudoku knows her side need to be almost flawless if they still have any hopes of winning the league title.
We need to win the rest of the games. You can see it, people. The teams are losing points everywhere. And for us now, it's just, we need to go out and we need to go unbeaten the last games that we have left. We have Hibs on Wednesday and we have Motherwell. It's a 6 points and that's it. That's the thing that we need to focus on.
Alina said there, Cheryl, that Celtic have to go unbeaten if they have any hopes of winning the title. Do they have the mentality to do so?
I don't see any evidence of it. Alison McConnell, who is on the show weekly, speaks of this, and I think she's right. It's you're having to look with your own eyes at what you see on the pitch. Celtic have been very inconsistent. They haven't had any real run of form where they're getting good result and good performance week after week after week at all this season. So I don't see it. I'm not questioning their mentality. I think they showed good mentality to get that into the game at Broadwood. Elena, she did say they have to go unbeaten. I think they actually have to go unbeaten but win every game, and I don't think that will still be enough just because of the points behind them. They're 8 behind the top of the table, Glasgow City and Hibs. So even if they do go unbeaten this season, till the end of the season, if they can do that, I still don't see it being enough. I think they will fall short.
And 7 games to go, as Elena Sudoku mentioned. If you're going to pick up results, this is exactly the time to do it.
Listen, they can't afford to be dropping any points at this stage of the season. They're running out of games now. They'll be happy that they got a draw, as I said, because they came from behind. They're away from home. They're still not beating Rangers, so they'll be happy they didn't lose the game. But I think they can't be dropping points, and I think that game there, they've had to win it and they didn't.
From a Rangers point of view then, I think it was a better result for Celtic than it was for Joe Potter's side. Just how costly could that be for Rangers as we move towards the end of the season?
Yeah, it was a good result for Celtic in that they came from behind. They were away from home where they are in the table and they managed to get a point. I do think though that was a game that they absolutely had to win just to claw back the points that they're missing in the season in terms of where they are in the table. I think Joe Potter actually probably will be the happier of the two managers. I know they missed out on going top of the table over Hibs, and especially with that result between Hibs and Hearts, which we'll speak about. But, Joe Potter said after the game there will be other opportunities for them to do that, and I think she's right. It was a missed opportunity, but other chances will come. There's so many twists and turns to come for the rest of this season, and I think Rangers will still be right up there. I think it's more damaging to Celtic, to be honest.
Definitely. Well, despite being 7 points ahead of her City rivals, Joe Potter isn't counting Celtic out of this title race.
Absolutely not discrediting anybody, because it only takes a 1-2 game swing and all momentum changes. Said that to the players before the game. They're looking for a game for it to change their momentum, coming off the back of 3 losses. So yeah, they probably felt like they probably needed the win a little bit more than us, but that doesn't change the fact that we wanted to win that game and we felt like we're disappointed not to come away with 3.
Joe Potter mentions there, Cheryl, she's not counting Celtic out of this title race. Despite having quite a considerable gap between the two sides, is that more of a mentality side to take the pressure off of her players, would you say?
It could be. I think that this season, especially in the latter stages of this campaign, Joe Potter has been very calm, and I think that's emanated onto the players on the pitch. You know, they don't get too high, they don't get too low. They've gone about their business quite quietly in the background. I think it's more to do with the fact that, you know, last season Celtic were quite far behind in January when Alina Siddiqui came in. They ended up obviously going on to win the league in the last day of the season. So I think she's referring to the fact that anything can happen, and we've seen with the results that we've had this season, just one result could upset the whole apple cart and things can change. So she's keeping things calm, but you know, I think if you look at the table, it's going to be it's not insurmountable for Celtic, but it's going to be very, very difficult for them.
Moving on to the Glasgow City Motherwell game, Cheryl. Glasgow City 4, Motherwell 0. The reason we're here at Petershill Park is because Glasgow City have moved to the top of the table. Winners of the weekend in your eyes?
Absolutely, definitely. I think, you know, Leanne Ross's side, they just went about their business. They did what they had to do and took care of what they could affect, which was the game against Motherwell. 4-0 winners. It was a fairly routine victory, and I'm sure they had an eye on the other results that day. Of course, Hearts 2-1 victory over Hibs, which was probably a bit of a surprise to them, especially given Hibs took the lead and how they've performed this season. And then, of course, later on in the day, the Old Firm derby, which they obviously would have had an eye on. And yeah, I think Leanne Ross will be happy. She won't be overconfident. I think she'll just look at it as they've gone top at the moment. But with these games going from Wednesday to Sunday now, you know, things can change in the space of a few days, and she'll be very well aware of that.
And now with that considerable goal difference between themselves and Hibs, is this where we could see the experience shine through towards the end of the season from Glasgow City?
Yeah, listen, I think that what Glasgow City have that maybe is a slight advantage to the likes of Hibs, Celtic and even Rangers is they have Leanne Ross and Leanne Crichton, and they're two players that have been there and done it. And not only have they been there and done it in Scotland, they've been there and done it at this club that they're in charge of. So if you're a player in that Glasgow City dressing room, you've got two people there who know what it's all about. They know the league, they know the teams and the players, and they know what it is to win a title. So I think that is something that they've got over the other teams. Not to say obviously Grant Scott's an experienced manager, he's been at Hibs before. Jo Potter has operated at a very high level. She was a lioness. I don't think it gets much bigger than that. And Alina Siddiqui is a very promising young coach, and she's had a lot of plaudits this season for what she's achieved. But yeah, I think Glasgow City have that in their armoury, which will stand them in good stead, I think.
Final game of the top six, Cheryl, was the Edinburgh derby. It did start well for Hibs, opening the scoring through Kathleen McGovern, but it was quickly cancelled out by 2 goals from Lisa Robertson and Emma Brownlee. What does this mean for both sides as we look towards the end of the season?
I think in terms of Hibs, you know, they'll be disappointed they've lost the top spot. They are still sitting equal points with Glasgow City, but the goal difference is obviously there. So I think there'll be disappointment there from Grant Scott, and especially taking the lead. And it's all the added element of it being a derby. Going in front, you would expect them to go on and win that game. But, you know, we've got to give a lot of credit to Hearts and to Eva Ollard. She's done a remarkable job. Hearts, I think, will actually be kicking themselves just in general over the course of the season. They've just had a couple of results that have just taken them out of that top 3. As Alison said last week, and I think she's correct, you know, Hearts are now in a battle with Celtic for 4th place. Yeah. And I think Hearts are sort of, they're riding the crest of a wave at the minute. They're getting better results than Celtic are getting possibly. So I think they'll be confident. But I think in terms of the top end where Hibs are, I think it's just, you know, they've got to just put it behind them and move on, because they've got so much football still to play. And as we said, things can just turn on its head in an instant in a result and a goal. So I think they'll be fairly comfortable, although disappointed in that result.
Moving on to Wednesday night's fixtures then, Cheryl, we've got Hearts against Motherwell, Celtic take on Hibs, and here at Petershill Park, it doesn't get any easier for either side, Glasgow City against Rangers. If I had to push you, would you say it's between these two sides for who will take the league title?
Yeah, if you had to push me, then I would say yes. I think Rangers have a very experienced squad and a very experienced manager, and Glasgow City have a manager who's been there and done it, as we alluded to before. And also they have a good squad. I think tomorrow night it's going to be really interesting, because there's a point between them in the table. This could have there's a lot of football still to be played, but this could have a pivotal role in the destination of this title tomorrow night. And I'm sure it'll be a very tight game. I don't expect there to be a lot of goals. And I think that Rangers will probably come into this one fairly confident. You know, they performed well against Celtic, but it's just the turnaround. It's so quick. They've played on Sunday. They're coming back here on a Wednesday night, and I think that's the thing that might stand apart the team that comes out on top both tomorrow And in the league, who can cope with this fixture schedule, because it's just relentless at the moment. And they've got good squads and big squads, but it's which players I think can deal with that the best. I think will come out on top.
Absolutely. Well, Celtic don't have it any easier either, as Alina Sudoku mentioned after that Old Firm draw. They take on Hibs. How do you expect that one to go?
I think it's difficult to call, because I think Hibs will be sore from that derby defeat. I think they'll be looking to obviously put things right in that sense and get back on the winning trail. Celtic, they're 4 games now without a win. It was 3 defeats in the draw, of course, against Rangers. So they'll be desperate to get a victory. The games between those two teams have been really tight this season. Celtic cannot afford to lose this game. They can't afford to draw it. And Hibs, I think, very much still in the title fight. And I think they'll be confident going into this one. I think Grant Scott will think they've got the measure of Celtic as they have had this season.
Final game of Wednesday night quickly then, Cheryl. Hearts take on Motherwell. I imagine Eva Olid's side will be up for this one after that derby win.
Yeah, absolutely they will. I think they'll be full of confidence going into this one. They know that they're in a battle for 4th. They might think they're in a battle for 3rd as well, although they could end up higher up the table, who knows, given the results. But yeah, they'll be confident, especially coming from behind against Hibs. It's a big result for them. In terms of Motherwell, it's difficult for them. We had Paul Brownlee on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he admitted, it's tough for Motherwell. They're in the top 6, and they would only want to be in the top 6, but when you're playing teams week after week, you've got Glasgow City, Rangers, Celtic, Hibs and Hearts. It's so hard for them to try and build up any momentum and any confidence. I think what he won't want is to go through this whole top 6 period without gaining a point. I don't think they will. I think that there might be a twist in the tail, and they might have a say in one of these games. Don't ask me what one, because I'm not sure. But I think Motherwell will have some kind of a say. But I think as well, they've got a big semi-final coming up at Hampden. They've got that to look forward to. The players will be, obviously, if you're a Motherwell player, you want to play at Hampden. They don't get there often. It's a huge occasion. They'll want to be in the squad and in the starting 11, so they've got that to build towards. But I think it's very tough for Motherwell as well. Just, it's, if you look at the domestic campaign overall before the split, they may have Glasgow City one week, and then, no disrespect to them, a Queen's Park or a Dundee United the next, and it's a different game. But when they're coming up against these top sides week after week, that's really difficult for them as well.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of the Women's Football Show. But don't forget, PLZ Soccer will be here at Petershill Park tomorrow night as Glasgow City host Rangers. On behalf of myself and Cheryl, thanks for listening and thanks for watching.